Hi, welcome to our webinar. I'm Sally Taylor, and you may be asking yourself what you're doing here. You may or may not find that you fit into one of these three buckets. Maybe you're a teacher and have been one all of your adult life. And maybe recently you've started feeling drained by a job that used to spark joy. Or maybe you feel like you're spending too much time or energy creating lesson plans or giving your all to your students and still only getting mediocre results. Maybe lately you feel like you've lost touch with your students and can't figure out how to even reconnect with them. You might even fear that some of them are getting lost in the margins. And while I am sure that you are wonderfully creative and could build your own curriculum to accomplish your needs, you're exhausted. And besides, we want to help you. You might be here because you're interested in becoming a teacher, but don't want necessarily to teach in the traditional sense. Or maybe you're just starting out a teaching career and you want tools to build your classroom into a team where students work together and want each other to succeed and encourage each other to be their very best. Or maybe you want to create a classroom that promotes creativity, connection, and the type of self-confidence and self-agency that makes every student feel that their voice is being heard and valued. Or three, maybe you don't even consider yourself a teacher yet, just someone who misses having creativity in their life and craves more creativity in their community in general. In any case, whatever your reason for being here is, we've got you. Whether you feel like you've lost the spark and joy teaching once gave you, or you're just looking for new tools to build more creativity into your life or an existing curriculum, or even if you just need a creative break from your day, I am very, very excited that you're here. And I'd like to invite you first to take a long, deep breath with me. And I'd like to navigate and invite you into the joyous, freeing, creative world of Consenses. I hope you're ready for a mini vacation. Just settle in and enjoy the relief that's going to come from the connection and creativity you're going to experience. This should feel like a spa day for your spirit. We're going to do three things in this webinar. We're going to play a game called Consenses that my mother taught me when I was diagnosed at 10 with dyslexia. And this is a game that took me from feeling scared and alone and isolated to feeling reconnected, creative, and engaged with the world. We're going to show you how that you can use this in your own classroom or work world, personal life, whatever, to get the same results. 2, I'm going to tell you about a fable about 6 blind men and an elephant that will help conceptualize how differently we each experience the world and how those differences, far from being divisive or a problem, are actually something that we can grow to accept and even appreciate in one another. This will help you see your classroom, yourself, and frankly, the whole world differently. And then 3, we're going to give you an overview of the curriculum that I built with the help of Harvard School of Education. Consensus at Home curriculum will frankly blow the hinges off the traditional teaching model and empower students to create and own their own world, whether that's in a classroom, your workplace, or even just your family in your own living room. The curriculum will give your students confidence and agency to express their own voices and listen to each other's differences with tolerance and respect. It will bring new joy and fulfillment to your teaching, a fulfillment that you didn't even know where to begin to look for. And Consensus curriculum creates a well-connected classroom, infuses students with creativity, and will make you feel like $1 million to teach. And because you signed up for this webinar today, I'm gonna give you a crazy discount for this very coveted Consensus at Home curriculum that we have at the end of this, and I know you're gonna want it, so stay tuned for that. First, let me just tell you a little bit about my own experience with education. I started my own educational career as your classic disengaged student, the one staring up at you from the cheap seats in your classroom, feet up, arms crossed, passing notes, looking bored, and too cool to be bothered. School was hard for me. I was insecure and scared to engage in class because I was worried I'd look stupid in front of my friends. I didn't feel valued by my teachers, and therefore I sure as hell wasn't going to give them any authority to validate me. I spent my early days in school defending myself from what teachers were teaching, and then trying to melt into the wallpaper, hoping that nobody would notice me or call on me. Sound familiar? I know how frustrating it is to have disengaged students who don't contribute in class, because not only did I start out as one of those run-of-the-mill disengaged students, I actually grew up and became an exhausted teacher myself. I started teaching songwriting and performance at Berklee College of Music, and despite my best efforts and putting 100% of myself into every single class, I came away most days feeling wasted and as though I wasn't even making 10% of the impact I wanted to and knew that I could. You've probably felt this at some point. Tired, uninspired, a little bit hopeless. This is when I knew that things needed to change. The good news is that I found a way to bring joy back into my teaching, to reinvigorate, inspire, and re-engage students, to help them find their voice and spark real joy and passion and get them invested in their own learning and curiosity. So I started building the Consenses curriculum in 2016, and it turned out to be exactly the solution that I'd been looking for. So to demonstrate what Consensus is and what it does, let me just play a little clip from my 2014 TED Talk. It talks about the fable I mentioned and how the game we're going to play called Essences works.
And it was during this time that my mom taught me this game called Essences, for which I will be eternally grateful, because it taught me how to decode the world and understand my reality using the tool of metaphor. And the way that this game is played is that one person thinks of an individual in their minds and challenges the rest of the players to guess the identity of that person by asking metaphoric questions about their essence. We're gonna play here, okay? And I'm thinking of an individual, and you might say to me, Sally, if this person were an animal, what animal would they be? To which I might say, praying mantis. And then you might ask me, if this person were a food, what kind of food would they be? And I might say, a red hot chili pepper. And then if you asked me if this person were a vehicle, what kind of vehicle would they be? And I would say, a bicycle, a rusty bicycle. And if you asked if this person were a beverage, what beverage would they be? And I might say, a shot of whiskey. And then if you asked, is this person Mick Jagger? I would say, yes, it is Mick Jagger. Now, the interesting part of this game came after the individual's identity was revealed. And each of us got to sort of talk about the different ways we would have metaphorically described this person. So if we were sitting around in my living room, my brother might say something like, you know, Sal, I get the bike, but I would have said celery for food. Or I see him more as a cat. And my mom would have said, oh no, not celery, definitely not celery. And have you considered that maybe Mick Jagger is more of like a rocket ship for a vehicle? Don't read into that. And so through this conversation, through this game and this conversation, I really got to see how differently we each experience the world around us, how differently we each see, and what an amazingly creative and artistic experience just the act of perception is. And this was my first sort of step into my own artistic journey and into the realization that art can be used not just as a statement, but as a conversation. And so fast forward now, and I'm going to school at Brown University, and I'm studying anthropology, and I race to my first class just in time to squeeze into my seat as my professor is about to completely blow my mind. And what he says is that he's going to tell us this fable about 8 blind men and an elephant. And the way this fable goes is that these 8 blind men are traveling down this dark and sort of stormy path when they come upon this elephant, and each of the blind men feels a different part of the elephant's body before coming to a completely different understanding of what the animal is. So the one who feels the tusk says elephant is a spear. And the one who feels the tail says elephant is a rope. And the one that feels the ear says elephant is a fan. And each of them feeling a different part and concluding a completely different truth, they argue for the righteousness of their own perspective until this wise king comes along and he says, stop fighting. Each of you is holding only one piece of this thing. But in order to understand the greater whole, you need to listen to one another and share your different experiences. And the way that I see it is that each of us is like one of these blind men. We get to feel only a tiny, tiny sliver of the gigantic nature that is reality. But then with that limited perspective, we think we know much more of the whole. And we sort of befriend those who agree with us and discredit those who see it differently. But so much more could be revealed if we actually had the capacity and the language to listen to each other and share our different experiences. So here I am at 24, so I'm making music and I'm playing out 180 shows a year, and I'm on stage and I feel as though something is missing. I feel like I'm only able to access one tiny part of something much bigger. I feel like I'm like a blind man holding the tail, right? And so much more is out there that I just don't have access to. And so I decide that I need more blind men. And thus, Consenses is born. I created my own elephant. I collected 22 images that represented different aspects of one thing, of the same thing. And then I designated 22 musicians. And I gave each of those musicians one of these photographs. And I asked them, what does this mean to you? There are no right or wrong answers. Express it as a song. And they returned to me those songs. And I extracted the song from the photograph that had inspired it. And I gave each of those songs to a dancer. And I asked the dancer, interpret what this means to you and express it as movement. And when the dances came back, I gave each of those dances to a painter. And each of those paintings to a perfumer who extracted the essence of those paintings and expressed it as a perfume. And then I took the perfumes and I gave them to poets, and the poems to chefs, and the food they created to sculptors, until all of the senses were represented. And at the end, 150 artists from around the world, some very well known and some completely obscure, had participated in this global game of telephone through the senses. None of them were actually privy to the identities of the other participants, and none got to see further back into these interpretive chains beyond the one piece of art that I provided them. So, the painter never got to hear the song, the perfumer never got to see the dance, etc. And after I'd done this 22 times, I gave each of these chains to a set designer and asked them to interpret this chain as a whole and create a physical space which this art can live within. And once all of the sets were done, I collected them into a large open space and opened it up to the public. When visitors come into this exhibit, when they come into one of these sets, they are presented with the original photograph. Then this song comes on, and the visitor is carried to a different point of view.
How long have we waited for your love? How long, how long? How long is the day when your love is gone? How long, how long? When you hear the troubled wind, your long night begins. Listen to the beating of your heart a while. fleeting at the start, but in that beating of your heart, there's a song, let it rise. It says, how long have we waited for your love? How long?
So that's thank you.
Okay, so this is an example of a portion of one of these chains. So in this snippet of the TED Talk, you heard about the elephant and the blind man fable, the game of essences that we're going to play with some consensus artists in a moment, and you learned about what consensus is, basically a game of telephone played with art that empowers people to better understand themselves, each other, and the world. So, since I gave this talk in 2014, I've got to build multiple touring exhibitions with hundreds of artists from around the world. Consensus has been exhibited in theaters and galleries and colleges and museums. And in 2016, with the assistance from professionals at the Harvard School of Education, I built Consensus curriculum for students aged 10 and up, offering the consensus process in the form of a social emotional learning multidisciplinary package. The curriculum, a 10-module online course called Consensus at Home, offers art as a language through which students get to communicate their unique differences and unexpected similarities with one another. Bringing consensus into the classroom bridges divides, inspires creativity and communication, and bolsters confidence in self-expression, leading to a greater ability for students to see from one another's perspectives, feel connected, and grow tolerance and even appreciation for each other's differences. Consensus in the classroom is a relay race of art making, where students progressively pass pieces of their artwork to one another in order to create multisensory interpretive chains by the end of the course. Each lesson offers an introductory tutorial in a different artistic medium: photography, music, dance, sculpture, poetry, painting, and set design. The art tutorials are all taught by me via videos that are embedded into the curriculum, so that no one who's interested in teaching the course needs to have any sort of artistic background to qualify. In fact, some non-arts STEM teachers insert our lessons into their primary curriculum to shed new light on their teachings, to further engage students in course materials, and inspire greater class participation. Our online consensus teacher training is only 2 hours long and is chock full of exciting and creative exercises that teach you all you need to know to be able to joyously and confidently bring consensus into your community. Whether that's a middle school or a high school, a college classroom, or a camp, after school, arts organization, or homeschooling setting. Or even if you just want to bring consensus into your workplace or an organization. Consensus training will certify you to bring consensus and the process into wherever you need it and make it possible to gather students and start offering consensus right away, giving your community a whole new way of seeing each other and the world that they live in. So we hope that you'll let us give you and your community the tools that you deserve to bridge the divides inherent in our current state of the world and provide the relief that comes from connection and creative expression. And now for that game of essences that we said we're going to play. What I've found after working on consensus projects for many years is that the game that my mother taught me as a 10-year-old, Essences, can be used not to just explore a person, but to examine almost anything. This means that whatever you teach can become an elephant if you just let your students tell you what it is that they see. Invest in how they understand it. Whatever you're passionate about, let it become an elephant, because whatever you think you know absolutely for sure 100% and are teaching, you can also be sure is in fact being understood by your students correctly, but in a myriad of exquisite and different ways if you only would let them teach you. The game of essences is the cornerstone of the Consenses curriculum. Let us show you how it works by inviting you to play this game along with us and a handful of our favorite Consensus artists. So go grab a pencil and a piece of paper and take a look at this piece of art with us. And just take a moment to let it saturate and let it just inspire you. What do you see? You might take it for granted that we're all seeing this the same way. But not only is the light on some of your computers dimmer than others, or the tints more yellow, some of you are seeing this differently because maybe you've just watched a really sad movie and you're noticing the drips in the paint. And some of you might have just woke up from a nap feeling disoriented, and this painting makes you remember your dream. Some of you associate flowers with funerals, and some of you associate them with weddings or first dates. But one thing is for sure, there are as many versions of this piece of art as there are people on this webinar, and none of those versions are good or bad or right or wrong. Let's show you how Consensus helps reveal those versions so that we can understand ourselves. What would this artwork be if it were an animal? Would it be something big or tiny? Something hairy or scaled or slimy? Would it be something nocturnal? Something that flies or swims or slithers or crawls? Would it be predator or prey? Write that down. What would this be if it were a sound? Try to hear it in your head. Is it loud or soft? High-pitched or quiet? Is it fast or slow? Is it a steady rhythm or erratic and unpredictable? Is the sound from an instrument, big drums or string ensemble, or maybe it's a pan flute, or maybe something from nature like rolling thunder? Write that down. What would it be if it were food or a flavor? Would it be sweet like candy or sour like a bite of lemon, or bitter like tonic, salty like miso soup? Would it be hot or cold, spicy or mild? Would it be a single ingredient or complex like a whole meal with a bunch of ingredients? So just take a moment to write all those things down. Great. Now, what would this painting be if it were a piece of art in a different medium than this? Can you imagine it as a song? What would it sound like? Or a dance? Or a fashion design? Or a sculpture? Or a landscape? Before I introduce Consensus artists, I just want you to know that I gave them this piece of art and I said, react by asking yourself what wants doing. Now, some of them are dancers, some of them are musicians, some of them are painters, some of them are poets, but I told them that they could create in whatever medium that they wanted to. So the only rule I gave them is that they could only take 20 minutes to create whatever they did. So let's see what they did. Let's see what they created and how we can see this piece of art from different perspectives. Thank you for taking the time and energy to participate in this with me. I want to introduce everybody first. Trey McIntyre is an art polymath specializing in choreography, photography, filmmaking, and writing. Eric Erdman is a singer-songwriter from Mobile, Alabama, whose new single, Softer Side of Diamonds, is out now on all platforms. And the full album, Enough, will be released on May 27th. Congratulations, Eric.
Thank you.
And Mark Cooper is an internationally known exhibiting artist who has a focus on collaboration and immersive installations. He's a professor and director of undergraduate studies in the studio arts at Boston College and author of Making Art Together, published by Beacon Press. So I gave you guys this mural and 20 minutes to react artistically to it in the medium of your choice. And so right now I'm going to have you each read your essences list first. What would this be if it were an animal, sound, food, or flavor? And I'll go first. So try to see the mural anew through each of the metaphors that I say. I saw this mural as a Doberman pinscher wagging its short, stubby little tail, a doorbell ringing when I'm alone in a new house, and a gooey grilled cheese on a thick, hard bread, more than slightly burnt. Eric.
I saw the mural as a bee jumping from flower to flower with its stinger out, able to do damage but not doing so, and also as after a timpani crash in the orchestra, the high register of the cellos coming in, where they're blended together, but you're getting the mellifluous out of the cacophony, and then also the aftertaste of cumin and a good shakshuka. That's what I got from it.
Glorious. Trey.
I saw the mural as a house cat the moment it decides to lay on its back instead of attacking your hand. An air horn in the distance starting a race, and an herbal tea that tastes like mud, but you feel better after drinking it.
Awesome. And Mark.
Well, the mural made me think of monkeys, quiet breathing, and fiddleheads cooked in a spicy garlic sauce.
Wow. Amazing. All right. So now it's time for a little show and tell. What wanted to be created when you saw this Banksy mural? Try to see the mural afresh as each person is sharing what they created. The goal here is to try to understand the mural in a different way with each share.
Yeah, I created a poem, and it's not that I'm a lyricist. I write lots of lyrics, but I do not write poems. But for some reason, that's what it immediately jumped into my mind to do. So this is what came to my head. So this is what I wrote down. Square peg, black hole, vaulting with the emperor's new pole. Neither weak knees nor weak souls find a way to stand. Instrumonumental, sharp and simple against simple. Tires spin before the signal. On your mark, get set, damn. Switchblade palette knife, Occam's razor slice. Twice life, twice life, twice life. Cistern chapel match the gas. As gristled old men chew the fat, their only questions in retrospect ask why they didn't see it coming. Firebrand new, hand one, hand two, and Krylon can do fire brand new. So can you. Square peg, black hole, unbent knees and unbent souls, once out of in control, know the way to stand.
What does that mean to you, Eric?
Well, what I saw in that, it's magic on two levels. It's showing how brilliant the mind of the artist is, and then, but on the other hand, the magic that it tells me is that we all are in possession of that same power. There's something really great in that, showing how much emotional effect you can get from such something that we all have. So it was inspiring on two levels to me.
How does that help anybody else to see the mural differently?
Well, it did, because, and a little bit in my own piece, I was reacting to what felt like a really aggressive body language, even though there's this bouquet of flowers. And I tried to, especially listening to the poem read, just let it wash over me, as opposed to pick each word apart and just like experience it. But it's so supportive of the artist and the artist's sort of creativity and brilliance and skill. I'm like, okay, I have to relook at this, and see why someone can appreciate it to that degree. So it helped me want to just spend more time with the mural and just see it from a different point of view.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric. I really love that. That poem is glorious. Okay, Trey, do you want to go ahead and
will show your piece.
Yeah. I can launch into it now because it's kind of just this repeated image. But so I was on the train going from New York to Bethesda, and it kind of helped me be in the feeling of the mural in a certain way and relate to it in terms of action and propulsion, and how there is definitely a trajectory feeling. There's a feeling of being propelled and moving through space. But that the content of it also modifies the action that's implied by it. And so, the idea of being on this train that was so quiet and gentle, and it was kind of raining outside, and a beautiful way to move through space was in certain ways suggestive of that.
For me, this piece was the release of the grenade in the mural. It was a feeling of, when you're in that cocked position of about to throw something, and it's that unsure moment of release where you're not really sure exactly what you've thrown, whether it's going to hit the intended target, and the reaction that's going to come back as a result. It's so fascinating. Okay, Mark, sharing your piece.
So I created a collage painting with a focus on two monkeys holding each other or caring for each other, working together. It's sort of as a counterpoint to the aggressive body language, of the figure throwing the flowers. And sort of my response to the mural was, I think that there's good intention, like, don't throw grenades, throw peace, throw love, you know what I mean? Let's make this place, let's work together. On the other hand, the body language is so aggressive that I wanted to have completely the opposite of, these sort of smiling Buddha heads, and these, and thinking what animal would represent it. And, we are monkeys, and these two monkeys basically loving each other and being pretty simple and cute. But, I just wanted to say, screw it. We don't have to be aggressive in seeking love and peace. We can do it in harmony.
I love that, Mark, and I love your perspective.
My first on it is that, I know in my perception of it, I really could not get past the darkness of the image. Like, that's kind of the only way I can see it. And what this brings up in me is that, of course, on some level, of course, the content of this mural is so filled with love, and my own prejudice in the way I might perceive a person's stance, or as a metaphor, my own prejudice in the way I might receive love. And for, what this painting says to me is it challenges my own openness in terms of how I might receive something, because it's such a perception of such joy and connection. So it was just challenging to me as a person.
What I saw was immediately came to mind was a black zipper on a gray scarf. And so after I created this, I recognized that the mural is a hug, the scarf over a black hoodie, which is the stigma and prejudice around it. And it says, love what you don't understand. Hug it, embrace it, love and lean into the mystery. So that's what I learned about the mural from this piece of fashion design that I came up with. It's warmth around something that is potentially misunderstood.
Well, one thing that your piece made me think, which I hadn't thought at all, it was I had compartmentalized the person who was throwing this thing as like aggression personified or attacking, and that's what the artist was playing against. But you kind of made me think with this, it's like, well, maybe it's not sure it is an aggressive act, but also what caused that? Like, what level of desperation did they have to be at to become aggressive? And then it was like, so the fact that you wrap somebody up as a comforting thing, which is kind of the idea of the piece, that was a jarring thought, actually, that it went from, it's like, oh, this isn't just pure aggression. This is like, this something caused this. Like, what is the causing? factor. And I only saw that because I saw how wrapping it was more like addressing that and giving them some peace and something other than attacking.
I love that. Have all of these pieces together helped you to see a bigger version of this mural than you had access to by yourself?
Certainly.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I feel a greater perspective actually on art itself. I feel like I'm always kind of looking for the reasons for art. And one of the things I really get from this conversation is that I have a greater sense of all these new people in the room and these new faces and new potential friends. And that as we describe our thoughts creatively, we actually reveal ourselves in a more genuine way, because we're not crafting it. We're not, it's not my personality. It's not my clothing. I'm basically talking about this other, but in revealing these perceptions of what I might see, I'm actually describing myself and how I see the world and how intimate it feels, and to hear not only to see your work, but also to hear how you're creatively inspired by other people's work. I feel like I keep learning facts about each of you. So for me, it adds greater depth to what I think is important about our creativity and about making art.
I do believe that working together is the only way we're going to make the planet a better place. And I think that, the arts, well, I'm all about bringing different things together. I think it triggers a viewer's mind in a way that a linear narrative doesn't, where you're just lecturing them about something. I think they have to put the pieces together, and why did Sally interpret it this way and you interpret it that way? And I think art in all its forms is a great vehicle for social change.
Thank you all so much for going on these little creative adventures with me, because the road to happy destiny has every single one of you on it, and you bring me so much joy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So now you can see how this activity helps us to see one thing in so many different ways. Just like the blind men each saw the elephant differently, but together worked to understand it as a whole. I hope you will take this practice into your lives and into your classrooms. So here comes what feels like a dreaded sales pitch, but in reality, I'm so excited to share with you how you can become involved in Consensus by teaching this curriculum. And I'm even more excited to offer you what I hope and I see as a great and really exciting one-time offer. First off, I want you to have the bundled package of both the Consensus at Home curriculum and the teacher training, so that you can turn your current classroom around, bring unity into your community, and literally feel like you're walking on clouds as you enter your classroom each day. The at-home curriculum can be taught from the comfort of your own home in a physical classroom, or some blend of the two. It will enable you to create consensus interpretive chains in your classroom. The teacher training will walk you through how to become the best facilitator of the Consensus curriculum possible and turn your classroom into an educating, loving, fun-loving space. You'll get the curriculum and the teacher training for a whole year. That means that you can get trained today in the daylight still left in the sky and start teaching tomorrow to as many students or groups of students as you want. And you can teach it in a school, or charge what you want and teach it remotely from the comfort of your own home. The Consensus at Home curriculum is so versatile and can be taught anywhere that you can find internet and a group of students. But because we don't want you to feel alone on your journey, we want to offer you even more. If you join us today, you'll get the Consensus at Home curriculum and teacher training and a one-on-one Zoom meeting with me to ask any questions that you might have, discuss modifications that you might want to make, and make sure that you feel supported. And to top it all off, a cherry on your sundae, if you will, we're offering you our teacher community portal, where you can connect with other people who are doing the same thing that you are, trying to transform their classrooms and communities using the Consensus curriculum all over the world. Our new teacher portal offers unity, connection, and a space to check out additional resources like lessons modifications, scripts, PDFs, and special VIP invitations to Consensus events. I want you to have $1,000 worth of Consensus for just $350. I know that the Consensus community is going to be perfect for you. Follow this link to get the best deal in town on our curriculum, which again comes with a free teacher training, a half an hour one-on-one with me, and access to our teacher training portal, our teacher portal for one whole year. A whole year of Consensus, learning, teaching, connecting, inspiring. Please don't let this deal pass you by. We believe in this curriculum and we believe in you and your students. What are you waiting for? This deal is not available on our website, and if you want it, you better hop on it now. I'm so sure that you're gonna love this deluxe package that I'm even gonna offer you 30-day money back guarantee. If you're not happy with the package in 30 days, just let us know and we'll give you a full refund. But do you really see yourself not being happy after you've learned how to teach such an exciting new curriculum? We can't wait for you to bring this Consensus into your community, and you won't either. I promise. Simply go to this link and do it now. Feel free to pause this video at any point, and from there, you'll see this red Buy Now button. Click on that, do it. You know you want to. There's no pressure because if you don't love it, you can have all your money back. Now, on the checkout page, you'll see it say at-home curriculum and teacher training, $350. Go ahead and fill in your email address and name. Then you'll scroll down and fill in your credit card info and billing address. And then hit that magical red button that says buy now, and voila, you're on your way to feeling refreshed about teaching. Once you purchase that, you're in. It's simple. You can now go through the teacher training whenever you'd like, and you'll be able to sign up for your meeting with me once you complete that training. And after that chat that we have, I'll get you that promo code that will unlock the teacher community. I would be through the roof if you would join us, and I think you will be too. So please, please, please don't hesitate to ask any questions. You can email us at consensusart@gmail.com. And thanks for giving me some of your precious time. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I hope that I get to know you all really soon, like today. So again, have a great one. Thanks.